Coming up on this episode of DL Weekly, changes coming to the Disney company leadership, more changes, but visible at the parks.
A special brunch to celebrate Father's Get to Know our celebrity co-host while Tage is away. And more DL Weekly starts now.
This is your captain speaking to you from the wheelhouse. I'd like to welcome all of you aboard the DL Weekly podcast. For safe passage on our trip, please do not sit or climb on the outside railings. And be sure to watch your children. The water can be unpredictable in these parts, and we'd sure hate to lose any of you.
Hello and welcome to this episode of DL Weekly for the week of June 21st, 2023. I'm Teresa Urban, and as you may have noticed, we have someone other than Tage with us. He is on his way as we speak. He is on the plane heading to Europe. And while he's away, we have a very special celebrity co-host. You may recognize the voice already, but we have with us Lynn from the Sweep Spot. So welcome, Lynn.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. This will be fun.
Well, Lynn has been a supporter and a fan of DL Weekly since forever. The first time we had you on was episode 50. So
wow.
Lynn's been around for a while. And we're great friends. We really are excited for this as well. So thanks again for stepping in and filling in while Tage's away.
I hope I do a good job at it.
You'll do wonderful. Well, and we want to send a special thank you to Joan A., Kelsey G., and Elizabeth M. for becoming official weekly tiers on our Patreon. Our supporters get some pretty fun perks like DL Weekly swag, bonus content, and access to our Discord community. If you would like some more Disney magic in your day, head on over to dlweekly.net/support to join.
Now let's get to the news.
CFO Christine McCarthy will be stepping down July 1st. In a statement released by the Walt Disney Company, she's leaving to take a family medical leave of absence. Current CFO of Parks, Experiences, and Products, Kevin Lansbury, will serve as the interim until a permanent replacement has been found. Mixed news on this one. What are your thoughts, Lynn?
I don't know. I mean, is it really what it says? Or, I mean, a medical leave? I don't know.
I'm not sure. That's the official announcement. Of course, we wish the best for Christine with whatever her reason for having a step back is. But I will be honest, I am excited about this switch up. One of the big reasons that I'm excited about this switch up is Kevin is the current CFO of Parks, Experience, and Products. So I'm kind of excited that the person that's been in charge of Parks, Experiences, and Products is now going to be stepping in, at least for the short term, for the CFO of the company. I feel like hopefully we might be seeing more things with the parks, more creatives in control, which we know is what Bob Iger's been trying to do. So I'm excited for what this change might mean.
Okay, I didn't know who Kevin was, so okay, then I am excited too then.
I'll be honest, I did not know who Kevin was until this announcement was made and did a little quick research to figure out, who's the new person? But so it's exciting. We always, we're a Parks podcast. Both of our podcasts are Parks podcasts. So any more focus on the parks is a win in our books.
Yeah, right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. The scaffolding is down and part of the exterior of Tiana's palace is visible. The large center balcony ironwork is painted bright yellow, almost gold. The smaller balconies have been refreshed too, but with a dark green paint. Lights have been hung and new striped awnings are in place too.
This was kind of a surprise to me when I was pulling the news this week. I was not expecting us to have a peek at the progress this soon already. But what were your thoughts when you first saw the photos of the new facade?
I think it looks good. It's better than I expected.
Me too. I mean, I didn't have like this. I think I talked about it on the podcast. I was not really understanding why we were retheming the French market. I really liked how it was. And the concept art, I was kind of like, I don't know. But this looks nice. I think the pop of it's not like a true gold foil, but I'd say maybe like a gold paint. It actually looks really nice.
Well, I'm colorblind, so I just I take your word for it.
It does. It's a nice pop. It doesn't. when you look at pictures, which of course we have linked in the show notes, of what the old ironwork looked like versus what the new looks like, the old stuff almost just kind of blended into the background. You didn't really notice that there was a balcony up there, whereas this is almost like more of a statement, if that makes sense. But there's new lights, which I think will be fun when it's nighttime. New awnings, so it's coming together.
Do you think that they're trying to, because my thought is they want it done by Halloween, when the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay opens and all that? Because that area gets busier around that time.
That would be nice if it could be finished before then. I don't know if they've actually given any sort of a date. But yeah, I totally see what you're saying, especially since they use the area in front of what will be Tiana's palace as the overflow queue. So to be overflow queue right next to a construction wall, not super great. But overflow queue next to the brand new dining location. That would be nice.
And the menu kind of reflects some of the overlay also. Yeah. All right, we'll just have to see.
I'm excited to see what the new menu is. I think we're probably going to see some things come back that were on the menu before, but I'm also excited to see what new things they have cooking up for us.
Yeah.
So I was just checking. It just says, it's a very vague. The restaurant is set to open sometime later this year.
Okay, well,
nothing specific. But the other thing that I noticed in the photos that were posted by the Disney Food blog is you can clearly see that the smoke structures, like the smokestack structures, look to be in place. So I think it might not be too soon until that scaffolding also comes down.
Good. Yeah, I think I'm like you. You'd said that you were a little hesitant when you first heard about the change, and I was too, because I thought, it's been there forever, and since the opening, and I don't know, I'm just getting older. I don't like change.
Well, the thing that was hard for me is it just kind of felt like we were taking something that was perfectly fine as it was, and it was just kind of generically New Orleans, and they are just attaching an IP to it. I don't like everything being attached to an IP. So
it doesn't need it. Yeah,
I don't think it really needed it. So that's, I guess, where I was coming from. I was a little confused. I do think it would have made a whole lot of sense, and I know we're a Disneyland podcast, but I think it would have made a whole lot of sense with them getting something like Tiana's Palace in Walt Disney World, because they don't have a New Orleans Square, so they don't have New Orleans themed restaurants already in their parks. So that would have made a ton of sense. Where I would have put it, I don't know, but that's for them to figure out. But I think that would have been really cool to have it at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, that discussion, we can go on all night about that. But I was thinking, Hungry Bear would have been better because it's closer to the attraction they're putting in. I don't,
Hungry Bear, I think, would have been hard because then you have... Well, Blue Bayou's kind of New Orleans themed, but then you'd have, there'd be lots of New Orleans style restaurants then. Because I was thinking that too, and then someone pointed that out. I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's a lot of the same type of foods. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
My thought was they should have, as much as I like Princess and the Frog, I think that Pocahontas would have been a better fit. But that's just my
you opinion. Mean for Splash? Do a Pocahontas?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Down the riverbed,
the
whole
and she goes, in the film, she does take her canoe over a waterfall.
No, just...
Lynn, you are the first person I have heard this. I've not heard that idea before. That actually makes a whole lot of sense, though.
I've been saying it on our podcast since the beginning. They've announced this, and you're the only one that's acknowledged it's a good idea.
I think it makes sense. I do. I think it makes a lot of sense. Plus, it's already kind of,
the area's themed that way.
And she has all sorts of critter friends as well, so it still fits in with, Critter Country.
Right, we could bring back the Native American area a little bit more.
Interesting. That's a very interesting hot take there, Lynn.
All right.
Well, new light posts have been installed outside of the Adventureland treehouse. It looks like there are two styles of posts that they have installed. One looks like it's been made out of bamboo, while the other looks to have more of a decorative ironwork on it. may sound kind of odd, but since the treehouse is right at the intersection of two lands, Adventureland and, of course, New Orleans Square, I think it's a really fun detail and a fun transition between the two lands.
Yeah, this has been a long project.
It has. I remember having Alex from Backside of Water on, and he was really excited, hoping that maybe before Adventureland Day, they'd have it done and put together, but unfortunately, they did not.
Very little information has even really come out about this whole thing. They did have a little bit, that they mentioned the name change, Adventureland Treehouse, but not a whole lot. Inspiration by Swiss Family.
Yep. The other thing, too, that I didn't mention in the news, because it's kind of a... Maybe Mice Chat in their article, one of their articles this week, zoomed way in, and they think that they can see parts of the water feature being installed now. So that's pretty exciting, too.
Yeah.
It's not like super obvious. I looked at the photo. I'm like, I don't know if I would have caught that necessarily, but seeing their zoomed in photo, I was like, okay. So hopefully it's soon.
You mean with the water wheel and how it would bring it up in those little the
little pail things?
Cups? Yeah. That was so cool. I hope so.
It looked like they could spot parts of that. So we will see. Time will tell.
They haven't announced anything on the opening of that, right?
No, there hasn't been any sort of dates that I've seen. Just kind of the same with Tiana's Palace. Yeah. It's kind of a generic coming soon.
I think that Disney... Have you noticed lately, though, Disney doesn't want to give a date?
Yeah. Well, I think that's... I get it.
Smart.
It's smart because then they're not having to hold themselves to that date if hiccups come up, which I'm sure hiccups come up way more frequently than we realize.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good to not necessarily... Well, so for Adventureland, for example, they just had, a water main break in Adventureland?
Right.
That's not something that they were planning on. And who knows, some of the people that may have been working on the treehouse suddenly had to go, I don't know how that all works, but, their focuses, I'm sure, have to shift from time to time, and other things take priority other than whatever project it is they are on at that time.
Yeah, and weather. I mean, they had a lot of rain this year. Yeah.
And wind and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. True. The two sold out Pride Night events were this past week, and they looked like a ton of fun. Ordinary Ventures has a great video with highlights from their experience in the first night. Events included fireworks, photo ops, fun foods, music, dancing, and of course, character meet and greets.
There was some pretty rare characters out too. We had Wandering Oaken from Frozen was out. Oh. That was to me the most rare. Oh, Jane and Turk from Tarzan were both there as well. And then you had all Mickey and Minnie and Clarabelle and Donald all had special outfits to celebrate for the night too. It looked like a ton of fun. I know Tage and I just experienced Star Wars night, which was our first not Oogie Boogie Bash party night. And that kind of was, I don't know, I think we had our hopes way too high for that. And then the weather didn't cooperate. But this one just looked like tons of fun. They had music pumping everywhere, different dance parties throughout the parks. There was special lighting packages on Main Street, on the Matterhorn, on It's a Small World. They didn't have a special lighting package on the castle, but of course they had the fireworks, plus there was a parade. Did you get to watch any video or see any photos of the nights?
No, unfortunately I didn't.
You should go check out that Ordinary Adventures video.
I should. Yeah. When they first announced this, I didn't quite understand I knew what Pride, I knew what that meant, but I didn't quite understand there's theme like Star Wars night. Of course, what's going to be involved with that or some of the other nights, but I thought, what are they going to do for this? But sounds good.
Tons of fun. That's what it was. Tons of fun. There was food, music, dancing, just everybody being... The thing that I kept seeing and hearing and reading were the people that attended just said there was electricity in the air. Everybody was in such a great mood. Everyone was just having a super ton of fun. So it was just a really awesome feeling, which is not, of course, something that Disney specifically did, but they said it was really fun. People were dressed up in all sorts of awesome outfits. Cast members, I guess, were able to dress outside of their dress code or like their uniform to kind of, express themselves more too. So it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Well, a special Father's Day brunch was offered at the Plaza Inn on Sunday. The menu included made-to-order omelets, biscuits and gravy, a meat carving station, chocolate butterscotch waffles, and even a taco bar. Goofy and Max were there taking photos with everyone, too.
Have you ever had the Plaza Inn breakfast?
I have not. Chicken, yes. Lots of chicken, but I've not had the breakfast. Have you had breakfast there?
So, I work for ConicEARS. I'm a travel planner there. And we had a retreat in April. And one of our things that we did as a group was a character breakfast at Plaza Inn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I had never experienced that. So, we'll get into this later, but I worked at Plaza Inn way back. And so I had worked there when the character breakfast was going on, but I had never really experienced it as a guest. And so it was a lot of fun. I was surprised how much food you got. I couldn't eat it. It was ridiculous. I just said, just give me everything. I didn't know you had eggs, all the basic stuff you can think of. There was ham and sausage and bacon and eggs and biscuits and gravy. Wow. And it just over.
So how does that work? Me being someone that's never been to a breakfast at the Plaza Inn, and perhaps this was a little bit different since it was a special Father's Day brunch. Does it kind of work how when you go and order food there normally you go through the stations and kind of pick what you want there, or do you order and then they bring it out to you, or?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like you walk up to the different stations. They had an omelet making station. You can go there if you want. They had waffles. They had different things. I just chose I guess you could call it like the traditional country breakfast or whatever. But it was pretty neat. So when you go, I don't know if you wanted this much detail, but
go for it.
So they knew our group. We had a big group, obviously. I don't remember the exact number, but there was like at least 12 or 15 of us. But Minnie was waiting near the entrance, where the little awning is right there.
Yeah.
And so you get a group photo, your group, or you can have individual photos with her. And then your group moves forward into where you get your food. Then they have a table reserved for. Now, I don't know if it was because we had a big group that we had a table reserved, but they had a table set aside for us.
That's very cool.
So, yeah.
So with that, instead of Mickey greeting everyone, it was Max and Goofy for Father's Day. I thought that was really fun. And then all the fathers got a special gift as well. And I had to, of course, because I'm curious, it was a button that said Happy Father's Day 2023 Disneyland. Okay. And then a little pennant, which Tage would have been all for, a pennant that had Max and Goofy on it and said Happy Father's Day on it too. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that's neat. I don't know if they've done... At least I don't remember a Father's Day.
I don't remember this either. And I thought that was really neat. I didn't hear about this before, so I'm not sure if this was something that you had to have reservations for. Right. Or or if it was kind of, if there was availability, you could walk up, or how exactly it worked. Because I didn't know that they were doing this.
If there was reservations, I didn't hear about, I didn't hear the announcement of it.
Yeah.
So.
Who knows? If anyone out there knows, email us and let us know. But another fun thing, too, is after brunch, Max and Goofy headed on over to Toontown, and they continued celebrating Father's Day together at Goofy's house. And this is actually the first time that Goofy and Max were in Toontown together. So that was pretty fun, too. Max is one of those characters that, until recently, he was very rare. He was not a character that you saw in the parks, at all. But he's been coming out more recently and hanging out more recently.
Well, do you think the new Toontown has kind of brought out some of the older, rare characters, it seems like?
Yeah. Yeah, because we got Pete. We definitely didn't have Pete ever before.
No.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Calling all Hocus Pocus fans, a new Lego set will be putting a spell on you soon. The set features the Sander sisters' home. Of course, the sisters are there, plus Danny, Max, Allison, and Thackeray Binks.
Are you a Hocus Pocus fan, or not your thing?
I like it. I mean, I'm not totally into it, but I enjoy it. In our house, we're big Lego fans. So I saw this, and I was showing my wife. I think it was last night we were looking at it. She said, "Oh, that looks cool."
This looks super cool, and I think I don't know how much you read about it, but there was a 26-year-old Lego enthusiast, her name was Amber, that designed this, and she utilized, there's something called the Lego Ideas platform, and she got 10,000 votes, and then it was chosen to be in the new lineup. I think that's really cool. This was a fan-created set.
Yeah.
And then
Lego does that. They have the thing where 10,000, and then it's considered. Yeah. They're coming out with a Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'm really excited about.
How did they not have these things before? I feel like that was just like leaving money on the table. But
I know, right?
The other cool thing with this set is it's designed to look like the cottage, but then you can also transform it into the museum that was showcased in the film. And there's different signage and rope barriers and other accessories, which all can be stored in a secret area under the house's stairs when you're not using it, which I'm like, come on, how cool is that? I think that's so neat.
That is cool. I didn't look at that far into it. I just looked at the photo real quick and just thought, oh, that looks neat.
I mean, the photo, I got excited about the photo because of different... Yeah. First of all, it looks amazing, but all the little nods that they have in there. So you've got Winifred with her broom, Mary with her vacuum cleaner, and Sarah with her mop. But then you also have Allison with her little jar of salt because she was trying to use the salt to keep the witches away. So I really enjoyed those little details. I'm not a Lego person, but I might need this.
I like the little water wheel or wind wheel, whatever you call it on the side.
The water wheel.
I just like the look of Little Cottage. It looks cool. I like that.
Oh, I didn't notice that there's like purple smoke coming out of their chimney too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Super fun.
Very good.
Super fun. Well, D23 is celebrating the Tiki Room's 60th anniversary with a new exclusive pin. The colorful pin features Juan, the Barker Bird, and is available for purchase to Gold members. This will be released on June 20th at Shop Disney. I'm trying to be good and not buy too many pins because I already feel like I have a lot of pins. But this one's pretty darn cool. I might need to get this one.
So you're normally not a pin collector?
I am, but I'm trying to limit myself on which ones I get because there's just too many good ones out there that I just can't possibly have all of them. But I think this one might be.
I'm not a pin collector, but I think this is something if I saw I would probably get for sure.
Yeah. The pin, I like that the pin's border is made up of like bamboo, and you've got like the fun tiki flowers on the bottom, nice bright yellow. Yeah. It just looks so good. Plus, the Barker Bird's just a fun part of the Tiki Room history.
Oh, yeah.
That's, he's living in Yesterland now.
Yeah, I like that. That's really nice.
It's limited edition to 1,500 pins. So if you're interested, make sure that you're on Shop Disney June 20th, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific.
Okay.
Mark your calendar, Lynn.
I'm going to. I'm going to try. That's cool. Very good. At long last, the Frontier Stagecoach has returned. This themed prop is located just outside of the Frontierland entrance to Galaxy's Edge and had been gone for a lengthy refurbishment. It is back and looking great. There are now some fun props inside the Stagecoach for guests to enjoy.
This is one of those funny things that Disneyland crazy people like us noticed was missing. And panicked because it was missing for a long time. But it is back. And I understand because I also got a little sad every time we'd walk past where it had been sitting for years. Yeah. And it was just replaced with a pile of boxes until it came back. But the Stagecoach is back with a bright, fresh new coat of paint. I'm sure they must have done other stuff too because it was gone for a while.
Yeah, we have to think it sits out in the rain, all the weather and everything.
Yep.
I'm sure it was. Did that come from Knott's? I've heard rumors that came from Knott's Berry Farm. I don't know for sure.
I've also heard rumors that it was. Yeah, I don't know. All sorts of different rumors. I don't know for sure what its true story is, but it's been there for a while. It does have a fun, not so subtle nod to Disney because it is it does have wet on it. But I think it's fun that they put props inside of it. So if you are if you get close enough up and look inside of the windows now of the carriage, they have some little props to make it look like the carriage has been used and different items that that travelers had left behind in the carriage.
Well, I'm glad it's back.
Me too.
Your attention, please. DL Weekly Trivia is now leaving for a grand circle tour of the Magic Kingdom, with stops at New Orleans Square, Mickey's Toontown, and Tomorrowland. All weekly tiers for...
Welcome to Trivia Land. How are we feeling tonight? Lynn, it's your first time being in Trivia Land. How are you feeling about this?
I'm a little nervous. I don't know why.
It's okay. I've been to Trivia Land multiple times, and I still don't know what I'm getting into each time we visit.
Well, I'll try to be as nice as possible. Usually, as you know from listening, we do have the listener-submitted trivia questions. But tonight, I wanted to bring you something special and different than that. I like to sometimes go into deep dives where I just get lost in Wikipedia articles and I start learning things about an attraction or about opening day or whatever particular rabbit hole I find myself falling into. And this particular one, I was interested in the queue for Soarin'. Because the last time that we were in the park, I was standing there just enjoying things in the queue and I thought, I bet that would be a fun question. And so I made myself some little notes in my notepad on my phone. And so now here we are with questions from my most recent deep dive on the queue for Soarin'. We ready?
Yeah. I don't know about you, Lynn, but my confidence level just dropped to like a -10. Oh. There's so much in that queue.
Well, let's see how you do. Your first question. In the queue for Soarin', guests pass through the Wings of Fame, featuring an homage to the California aviation industry, including profiles of what 3 iconic aircraft? Aircraft.
I know one, Spruce Goose.
Dang, good job, Lynn. I have nothing.
Okay. This is harder than I thought. Because I look at them every time. Maybe the Spruce Goose isn't one. Now I'm second-guessing myself. No, I think it is. That's Howard Hughes.
Look at that. He even knows who it... Man, I'm doomed.
That's the only one I have.
Well, it's better than my nothing, so good. You're already ahead.
All right. Final answers? Nothing and Spruce Goose?
Yes.
All right. Your second question tonight. Also in the Wings of Fame, there is a section dedicated to notable aviators. How many of them can you name?
Amelia Earhart's in there.
Oh, I know a last name. Yeager.
Is it Charles?
I think so. And I named Howard Hughes, right?
Yep, you said Howard. I feel like the Wright brothers have to be in there.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about all I've got.
That's all I have, yeah.
And on Wright brothers, are you saying both of them?
I was going to, but now I don't know. Yes, we'll just keep it with both. The Wright brothers.
Yes.
Do you know their names?
I think Orville.
I don't
know.
Okay. Charles Yeager, Howard Hughes, Amelia Earhart, and the Wright brothers. Orville question mark. Is that your final answers?
Yes.
Yes. As good as I think we're going to get.
All right. Your third question. After the Wings of Fame, guests are separated into 3 pre-show areas where they meet Chief Flight Attendant Patrick. What are the names of these areas?
They're what? They just have numbers.
Like the holding pen, or?
Like, so you're taken to your area before you enter the attraction itself.
Oh, yeah, pre-flight check.
Yeah, pre-flight check, area. I don't know.
Or if you were at
airport,
an opening or a door, and it was
pre-flight door,
and it was labeled with a Phoenician thing.
Wow.
I don't know where you're trying to lead us.
No.
Okay.
Holding room? I don't know.
You said that there was something in here that you thought we were for sure going to get?
I was hopeful.
Wow.
You're going to scare Lynn. He's not going to want to come back to trivia.
I promise I'll be nicer next week.
I'm sticking with pre-flight check because I have no idea what your hints meant.
Yeah.
All right. Final answers?
Final
answers. All right. Your fourth and final regular round question. Chief Flight Attendant Patrick is played by whom?
Oh, the guy that voices Kronk. I don't remember his name.
Oh, man.
I don't remember his name. I just don't.
Wasn't his real name Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick, but I don't know what his last name is.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick, not Stewart. No,
it's not Patrick Stewart.
No, it's not. I don't know what Patrick's last name is.
I'd be guessing, I don't know, Smith.
But he's the voice of Kronk.
Okay, so you're guessing Patrick Smith, and you know that he's the voice of Kronk.
This is bad.
Yes.
All right. And your bonus question, your bonus question tonight. In what year did the original Soarin' Over California debut at DCA?
2001.
Yeah, I was going to say it was an opening day attraction, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
2001.
2001. Is that your final answer?
That one. Yes.
February 8th.
All
Dang! Right. Lynn coming in with the exact day.
Very nice. All right. Well, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home? Stick around until after the discussion topic, and we will all find out together.
Well, joining us today and for the next few weeks is our special guest co-host, Lynn. Of course, you may know Lynn from the Sweep Spot, but did you also know, well, if you've heard him on the Sweep Spot, you probably do, but Lynn is also an author. He is a former Disneyland cast member and a current travel planner for ConicEARS and, again, podcast host. So welcome, Lynn. We're very excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun. When you asked me to do this, I was very honored, and I thought, yes, I would love to do that.
I thought it'd be such a fun collaboration between our two podcasts and a fun, just, something different. And I think we've got a lot of listeners that listen to both. So I think a lot of people get a kick out of, hearing you here instead of your normal home Sweep Spot. So I think it'll be really, really fun.
I hope
so. I'm excited about it too. Well, Lynn, before, for those of you that maybe haven't heard anything from the Sweep Spot or didn't listen to our older episodes that we had you on, I want to take this time to kind of let everyone get to know you a little better. So I won't make you go through all of our normal questions, but we'll do a couple of them. So can you tell us what your favorite attraction at a Disney park is? It can be Disneyland or any parks, but what would you consider your favorite attraction to be?
Probably Pirates of the Caribbean. But Haunted Mansion is coming closer to my favorite.
It's
the last two. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably either you can't go wrong with either one of those.
No, you can't. You absolutely can't. And the nice thing about both of them, for me, Haunted Mansion's my favorite, but with Pirates too, both of them. If there's not that long of a wait, I get in the line. It doesn't matter if it's the second time, first time, or the seventh time during that trip. I always get in the lines. The repeatability on both of them is just amazing.
Yeah, I can go on and on about Pirates. I love it. There's so many details.
I was going to say, so what is it about Pirates that put it at the top of the list for now?
Well, I think it represents Disneyland the best because the whole thing behind Disneyland is you're supposed to be out of like the real world into a fantasy world in land. And I think Pirates does that better than probably almost any attraction I can think of, because when you walk in and you're in the bayou, you already start to slowly like, okay, I see what's happening. But then when you go down that drop and you're in this world of pirates, and from there on, you just kind of forget, where am I? Like, you don't even really realize exactly where you are. I mean, I know because I know, but I try to forget all that and just bring it. It's amazing.
It is amazing because you're right. Like, you're totally transported. I feel that same way with the mansion. I will foolishly admit that my brain knows it's not possible, but I fully believe that I am still within that mansion facade while I'm in that attraction with clearly I am not. But like, it's really amazing how they did that. Not quite the same with Pirates, since you kind of like enter a little, just like a door. It's not like you're entering a building like the Haunted Mansion. Right. But still, you're just transported. You fully believe. Yeah. And the other crazy thing with Pirates, I think, too, is they did such a good job that even if I'm sitting there staring straight up at the ceiling, I still can't wrap my brain around the fact that I'm in a show building. That's probably just some big metal, boring-looking building from the outside. I still feel like I'm in a totally different world, even though my logic knows, no. You're not.
Well, the whole New Orleans is a whole marvel in itself. The whole construction. We went into detail. So if people want to go back, there was an episode we had with Tom Morris, Imagineer, and then Rick West, who's a theme park guy. And so we talked all about, we didn't really plan on it, but we went into this thoroughly just detailed description of like how it's all laid out, the levels and where you are in the ride. And just, it's pretty cool. See, I don't remember which episode. It was like a month or so ago. But
I've seen different blueprints for different attractions. The ones that come to mind are like the Matterhorn or Splash Mountain's a really good one because again, I fully think that I'm just within the little like what I can see. My brain forgets that there's all sorts of other stuff that I can't see that you're actually going through. But yeah, the levels like when you're in. When you're here, you're actually on top of this or over by that or, whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite. Now that we talk more about it, I think, but Mansion is it's in its own level. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what is it about Mansion that you really appreciate?
I think that there's like this mystery behind it's like dark. And I think everyone likes to be a little close to dark, but not go that far. Yeah. Like, and it's scary, but it's not. Like, it's fun. But there's something about, I like the architecture. Like, I like that theming of, reminds me of the movie Clue. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, I haven't, but I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, it reminds me of that and like Scooby-Doo. But just, you know what I'm talking about? The like ghosts and I don't know, the whole thing.
It's just the other thing that's, and same again back with Pirates, is there's so many fun yet simple tricks that the Imagineers did that it's wild to me how well they've held up with time, because a lot of stuff doesn't hold up with time. Technology advances, everything moves forward, and so different things that were really cool and like, wow, look at that. Years ago, you can, even think about movies, like watching older movies sometimes then versus now. I'm thinking of like the old like sci-fi type movies and like what technology was versus what it is now. And it's always amazing to me when those older techniques hold the test of time and still are just as amazing.
Yeah, I think, you talked about Pepper's Ghost. That whole thing, they still use that today in new attractions that they've created. That effect's being used. So that it has been around way before Disney. Oh, yeah. And the way it was created, I think, they had, Walt had passed away before it was really built. There was ideas and the Museum of the Weird and all that. And then Mark Davis kind of got involved and brought the humor part of it. So if you think about it, like I always think that the Rolly Crump part is like up to the ballroom. Sure. And then Mark Davis kind of took over from that point. That's what it seems like, because there's nothing funny until about the ballroom scene. Maybe not even that, like the graveyard.
I would say, because the ballroom's a good transition because you've got, some serious things, some serious and scary things, but then there's also some humor because you've got I'm thinking about the dueling portraits, how they come out of their portraits to duel. Like that's not necessarily scary, but not funny. It's a good kind of in between.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that the reveal of the pirate ship, when you come out of the cave in Pirates, that's kind of like the ballroom scene for a mansion, don't you think? like the big reveal, the big scene, because that's probably the biggest scene. Well, the graveyard, but I mean it's like a lot of scenes.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah,
the graveyard's fun because it's a lot of, and that's kind of like with Pirates too. Once you go past the ship, it's a lot of kind of little. They're spaced out, of course, more in Pirates than they are Mansion. But yeah, they kind of have all these little mini scenes, and they're all iconic because I mean, the hitchhiking ghost. You've got the singing bus, and Pirates. You've got the jail cell scene, or like the guy trying to not. The balancing guy that you're not sure if he's going to fall or not fall, or the pig pirate, you know, you've got all these really iconic little pieces that then make up the whole story versus Mansion. They're all there. They're just right next to each other.
It seems like the Mansion, I mean, Mansion has always been popular, but I feel like over the past, maybe 20 years, 15, 20 years, it's just been huge, and I think merchandise also helped with all that. Yeah,
that's true.
We could talk all night about Mansion, but this isn't the Mansion episode.
So since you did have a unique perspective and worked at the parks, what are your thoughts of the behind the scenes on those two attractions? Knowing the behind the scenes stuff and having them as your favorite attraction, what's kind of your take on the behind the scenes stuff?
So as a custodial cast member, I don't know if they do this now, and it was maybe something we probably shouldn't have done, but it's okay.
So it was fun. Got it.
At the end of the night, as a closing lead in the area, I would reward my cast members or a couple of them. Because at the end, it wasn't a whole group of people. It was usually down to like one or two people because people kind of taper off as the night goes. And I tell them, hey, if we can get our closeout done, which is, checking flower beds and just making sure the area is good for the night crew to come in and hose down, we get to walk Mansion. And so what we do is, because there's that little gap in the middle where the dune buggies go down. So one person on each side, and we'd walk through and we collect all I didn't realize until the first time how much change is just in one day.
Really?
We had our pockets completely full. We didn't keep it.
Yeah.
But we had our pockets completely full of change, both pockets. Just
who's tossing loose coin out in Mansion? I mean, enough people.
Crazy.
Wow.
I never see anyone do that, and I've never thought to do that. But
I don't know how it would accidentally fall out of your pocket either.
No.
It could be in your dune buggy.
A lot. And so we did that, and we ended up taking it to the wishing well on our way out and threw it in there. Anyway, so we'd walk through there, and so you kind of get a close-up view of everything.
That'd be cool.
We walked down into the ballroom, which was really neat to see those figures up close, and the way they're painted and the colors, so they come across because they're really bright up close, but then
aren't they?
Yeah, it's really cool. So that was one of the neat things about being in Custodio. We can kind of do those unofficial
tours
things and just say we picked up trash along the way, so that was like our thing. So
did you get to do something? So I mean, Pirates is a little different since obviously you can't walk the track of Pirates, but did you get to go peek around in Pirates as well?
A little bit, not as much in that one. Because a lot of doors are locked, or we don't have keys to. There's different things. We had a lot of keys, but we didn't have to everything. But there's down in there. There's cast member. Well, there was. They moved it as a cast member like cafeteria, and it was called the West Side Diner, and it was right below. So like those. Where the restrooms are? Well, the men's restroom is in New Orleans, and there's these swinging doors there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been that far over. And anyways, that's where cast members go. There's some stairs that goes down, and there's tunnels in there. But there was a cast member restaurant. But I think they use that now for Blue Bayou too. But it was really good food because a lot of the chefs are people that worked in like Blue Bayou also cooked the food there.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Nice.
But you would just be walking down this hallway, and there'd be a door, and you could hear the noises. You go, oh, I know where that is in the ride, because you could hear the... Yeah.
That's funny.
So that was pretty neat, yeah.
So we'll kind of back it up. We've already talked a little bit about your time at Disneyland in custodial, but was that what you started in, or did you start in something else?
So I started out at Plaza Inn. It was called the Plaza Complex, and it was Plaza Inn in between, which is the cast member cafeteria behind Plaza Inn on Main Street.
And that's still there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's different, but yeah, it's there. And then the Plaza Pavilion, which is where That used to be a Plaza Pavilion, is like a Italian, and it had like spaghetti and stuff. So I think they added the spaghetti to the Plaza Inn after that had closed down.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, the pasta does feel a little random at Plaza, but that makes more sense now.
Yeah. I think that's when they added it. So anyways, I would work one of those, and that was 91 to 93, and I was like a part-time. I only work like weekends and holidays and, like summer and Christmas, stuff like that. Yeah. And then it had a sad ending, but I was young. I was like, what was I then? Like 19. And I was in a band. I played drums, and that was more important at the time. Sure. Although I liked working at Disneyland, I called in sick too many times and I got fired.
You wanted to go be a rock star instead.
Yeah. But then I came back in 98 and reapplied, and they had said I was on the no hire list. And I said, oh, that's right. So they made me fill out, why I think they should hire me back. And I just said I was a stupid young kid, and I'm ready to make commitments now, and I've matured, and then they hired me. So
hey, at least you're honest, right? So is that when you became a sweeper?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 98. Yeah. Yeah, so my time working at Plaza Inn was bussing tables. That was what we did then.
Who was it? Oh, Kevin Rafferty got his start at the Plaza Inn as well, but he was, I think, a dishwasher, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good place to start at the parks, apparently.
I guess so.
Very cool. So, Custodial. You have 2 wonderful books about your time in Custodial. So if people want more detail, I highly recommend you go check the books out. They're The Sweep Spot.
Yeah, thesweetspot.com. Yep. They're called Cleaning the Kingdom. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They have 2 volumes, and you can get both on our website, thesweetspot.com, signed by both of us.
Yay, because it's Lynn, and then also his co-host on the Sweep Spot podcast, Ken, who also worked in Custodial for quite a while at Disneyland, and it's all their fun stories. So the first book, Cleaning the Kingdom, is more kind of the details of what their days were and kind of what the job is, some fun stories and all that, kind of their experience. And then the second book is that one I really enjoyed, because it's almost a history of the department.
Yeah.
So there's that. I don't think I knew what I was getting into when I got when I picked up the second book. I was just excited because I enjoyed the first.
Yeah.
So that was a pleasant surprise for me, was to learn more of the history of the custodial department. So very cool.
Yeah, we wanted to pay homage to the founders of the custodial department. I know it seems so silly, like the history of some
It's interesting though.
Yeah,
because but
it is important. Yeah,
because there was not very many people that headed that department from when Walt started it to when you were there, right? Wasn't it only like 2?
Yeah. There was Chuck, and then a man named Ray who we worked for. So really, we had only. There's only been one other manager before we started working there. Yeah. So, and
correct me if I'm wrong, did Walt pick he handpicked the first custodial?
Yeah, Chuck.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So because that's crazy.
Yeah. Because they outsourced, I think it was like opening day or that week or whatever, they outsourced, and then it was just a mess. So I think it was Chuck Voyage, and he said, I can do this, and he created this whole department and came up with all these standards that they still use today.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a lot of really interesting things, because just the fact that custodial wears white, even though they're the ones doing all the cleaning. So really, they're probably the people that you shouldn't be having wearing white, because they're, like you were mentioning, you're having to clean up the different garden beds of garbage and stuff. So it's not like you're not doing anything. You're just standing there looking nice in your white uniform.
Right.
But that just also speaks to the level of, this is how good of a job this department does, because they're cleaning things. Yet you can't, there's nothing on them that makes you think otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I had heard 2 different things that we actually blend in more with white, so we're not really as seen. And other is that it's easy to bleach, because it gets dirty.
Sure.
So just bleach it. Yeah.
So I may have made up my own whole thing. But, I've seen custodial cast members painting in white. And I'm like, I make a huge mess if I paint anything in my house. So I'm shocked. Actually, when we were there in May, we were watching them. There was a cast member touching up the statue right outside of Doc Ondar's. That big, I don't know who the statue is of, but the woman that's like right to the right of the entrance there, someone was touching that up. And yeah, she was in whites and she was like flicking paint on it because, she painted it this bright purple color at first. And we're like, maybe it dries to the more like metal looking color that this is. And we happened to just make a couple of laps while she was in the process. And then we talked to her, it was the primer. But then she was flicking other paint on there to age it. And I'm like, how are you wearing white? But she was. It's impressive. Very impressive. So you were in custodial 90. You did two rounds in custodial, right?
No,
just one.
98 to 2007.
Oh,
yeah,
got it. 98 to 07. So, kind of give us a little overview of some of the things that you did, or some highlights of your time in custodial.
So they did a lot more for cast members. I know they do a lot for cast members now, but
it was different
from what I hear. Yeah, different times. We did a lot of fun stuff. They had this one event I was thinking about today. It was just for cast members, and the Sherman brothers, both of them were alive then. And they did a presentation in the TDA building. There's like a auditorium there where they do the cast member orientations and things. And they just came, and Bruce Gordon was there. You know who he is? Yeah. He wrote the Nickel Tour and all that. So he was there, and he
don't mind me. I'm just in awe of like what.
Oh, well, I didn't realize it at the time. I mean, I knew who they were, but I didn't realize how big of a deal this was at the time. But yeah, they did their normal routine. Richard he just introduced the song, and people were singing along, and they were playing all their songs, and I was like, wow, they sing all these songs. Or wrote all these, and they were selling their book that Bruce Gordon had helped write in Walt's time, and they signed it, and I still have that. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a neat event. I don't think they do that kind of thing. I mean, they might, but I don't know.
That kind of thing might be a little more tough to do. Rick Law was just on our podcast for the past couple of weeks, and we were chatting with him, and how it's just interesting how for a long time some people, like the Sherman brothers would be a good example. They did their things. They had this huge impact on the company, and a ton of people knew their stuff without maybe necessarily knowing who they were. And then all of a sudden something changed, and the public kind of became more aware of who they were. And it was not like anything changed for them necessarily. They were still just going along doing what they always had been doing, but it's almost like sudden fame. So with some of these people, I kind of wonder, is it still possible maybe it's the internet? Yeah. I think some of it happened before the internet. Tony Baxter's another one too. Yeah. I just wonder, I'm like, how did people, like, everybody knows who Tony Baxter is now, but kind of backtracing that, it's like, how did that happen that everybody knew? I'm thinking like the last day that Splash Mountain was there, I saw so many things on social media with photos of Tony there and how excited everybody was about that. And it's just one of those, I'm always curious. I'm like, how does he go from, because when he was there doing his stuff, the world didn't know it was him doing this stuff, and then suddenly something changes, So same thing with like the Sherman brothers. Back then, they're just two more regular guys, so it's easier to have them come in and do something like that versus today. It's more tough. Bob Gurr's another one too.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I think like Disneyana kind of opened up that, because that was their thing. They would do is have Imagineers come and talk, and
that's true. Kind of put a face with the projects, or connect the dots for people as to who was behind some of these really incredible things that they experience, whether it's in the parks, the movies, whatever. What did you say their book was? Because
Walt's Time. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's another thing. One of these times we're gonna have to chat about that. Lynn, as we're recording this over Zoom, because we are in different parts of the country, but he has this huge Disney library sitting behind him that, he just told us there's a signed Sherman Brothers book within that collection. So who knows what other amazing treasures there may be in there. I'm looking at yours. I'm looking at mine, and it's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. I feel like I have a lot of Disney books, but you put me to shame.
Well, on my Instagram account, the Sweep Spot, I started doing a a series where I've been taking photos of my books and then putting them on there, like to feature different books from my library. So
I think that's
need to
great.
Yeah, just to get awareness for. I mean, some of the people I know, the authors, and it helps them, and
Well, and there's just, it's sometimes hard because there's so much stuff out there. So it's hard to know what's good and what's true and what's, things that you want to absorb versus things that maybe aren't, someone maybe didn't do as much research or, whatever, or it's just not as good of a read or, whatever it may be. And some of this, like me, we've been doing this podcast for, it'll be 6 years this year.
Oh.
I don't know if I knew about this Walt's Time book before talking with you. So you just never know. I do have to let everyone down slowly, though. It looks like it's probably out of print now. However, you can still buy used copies.
Okay.
And it's not as crazy as the Nickel Tour.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I'm gonna see if
we can talk all about books one night.
100%. I think we should. I don't even know if so I just pulled up the Nickel Tour. I mean, it's just Amazon, but $450. Well, in Walt's time, it was around like $60, so that's way, way more.
Do you have the Nickel Tour?
I do.
Oh, yeah, I do too. Yeah.
About fell over. Quick little story on the Nickel Tour. That was a Christmas present from Vern.
Oh,
probably like 3 years ago. I about died when I opened the box and saw what it was. And I immediately looked at him. I'm like, why did you buy, knowing it's a very, it's out of print and it's rare and it's crazy expensive. And I just kind of was like, why on earth did you thank you, but why did you did not need to do that. This is too expensive kind of thing. And he's like, no, calm down. He's like, he had some sort of in and he won't tell me what the price was, but he said he found it for a really reasonable price. And the other cool thing is when I opened it, there was other kind of I should grab it right now because I don't even remember what the things were from. There was other Disneyland historical things inside the book.
Oh, you have the blue one. There's one that's the first edition. Yeah, I have that one.
The crazy expensive one.
Yeah, I have that one.
I don't know who owned this because it just sat on a shelf. But here it is.
Oh.
This thing's wild. I don't know why they sent this, but it's the second annual conference of the Rotary International that was held at the Disneyland Hotel. And it's this little pamphlet that's, again, in perfect order. No folded paper. But, look at these cool.
Oh, that's cool.
It's wild.
Wow.
Other random Disneyland history thing that I just happened to fall in my lap. I'm not a Disney historian by any means, but these things, when they happen, it's just this is so cool. But I have one of the, not the original, but one of the older, I think it's from the 60s. I'll have to look up when it was. I'll have to go down and grab it and look. But park map from one of the little brochure park maps. My great aunt went out there, and it's pristine. I don't know how she would have been able to carry it around and use it that day. Pristine. So maybe she grabbed it on her way out or something as a souvenir. But I've got, one of the old, not park maps, but you know what I mean? The little brochures that you pick up. Whatever you call guide maps. That's what it's called, a guide map.
Anyways, we can go on all night about books. We'll have to do a thing on it.
We definitely will. I think I told you that in our Discord and for our patrons, we actually started a mini book club. And we featured one of your books one of the times. But we pick different books and different Disney books and read them, and then after everyone's read them, we kind of come together and have a group Zoom call to discuss the book. So right now we're currently reading. It's kind of a cute story, which is Rolly Crump. So excited about that. That one, when I ordered it, and when it arrived, I don't know what I was expecting. It's much larger than I thought. It's almost more coffee table book sized than what I thought it was going to be. I don't want to say a regular book, but kind of a chapter book size. But it's got tons of pictures, which I'm all for all that.
Very well done. Yeah.
So going back to your time as a cast member, since we got distracted by Disney books and fun Disney stuff, Disneyland stuff. What are some of the other highlights for you? I mean, I don't know how you really top a private concert by the Sherman Brothers with a book signing, but what are some of the other or like maybe just kind of quickly what your day to day was, what your different roles during that 9-year span was.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I hired in, it was kind of a unique time because California Adventure was, it was still parking lot then when I hired in. And then that summer, I think it was summer of 98 when I hired in, that fall is when they started tearing apart the parking lot. And we had this opportunity where anyone can come. It was early in the morning and we all stood in front of, because now I have a photo, I have to look for it, but it's probably about where, just past the monorail beam, the first monorail beam, so out in the middle of the Esplanade.
Yeah.
And they took a whole group picture. They had someone up on a tall thing, and they took a photo of all of us, and then they took another photo in the same spot before it opened.
Oh, so you had like a before and after group shot. That's really neat.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat because it was such a unique time to work there, to see the construction of it, and just really neat to be a part of that.
Well, and a lot of people just think of it being Disneyland and then California Adventure happened, but a lot of people forget that all of downtown Disney also did not exist pre-2001 time. So that was all being developed and changed, and I can't even imagine. I just can't even imagine what that was. My first ever visit to the parks was actually the year 2000. So I was there not when it was like a parking lot, but also not when it was DCA. I was there kind of in a funny middle time for my first ever visit. So I do remember visiting and walking past construction walls when we were walking through the harbor entrance and all that. So very interesting.
Yeah, it was really neat how the different stages it opened to watch all that happen. Because my first time I worked at Disneyland, in the early 90s, we parked about, like, my car, where I parked my car every day was probably about where Monsters Inc. ride is, like somewhere in there. And you would just walk to where we clock in.
That's actually a pretty decent parking spot.
Yeah. And then sometimes if it was really busy, we'd be farther out, probably where, like, in Criticoasters. But yeah, so then they moved us off site, and it's over off of Catella, over there across from the Garden Rock Walk. So that happened. Then the Esplanade was built first, and then just to slowly see, they had a little tower in the Esplanade. When we were working out there, you could walk up and overlook at the construction and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was that just a cast member thing, or was that open to the public? Do you remember?
The public, yeah.
That's pretty wild. Think of construction now. They don't even let any little crack in the construction walls happen. And back in 2000, 99, 2000, they have this, come walk up and, like, look over the entire thing.
Yeah.
How times have changed.
Yeah, it was really neat. So you're asking about my day-to-day. It was just, at the time, we would wear our regular clothes, and then we'd show up and change. And then later they made it where you can bring your clothes home and wear it. But that was like a big no-no, is that you weren't supposed to be outside of the park. So it's weird when I see people, like, in costume over at, like, 7-Eleven or something.
Yeah.
But so we'd get changed there, and then we'd check into the custodial office, which when I first hired in, it was back behind, like, it was in Fantasyland. So Rancho del Zocalo was like kind of back to the right, back there behind, like, Pinocchio and all that. There's like a little alleyway back there. But then they moved custodial office downstairs in the basement of the old admin building, which is the building that the train goes through for the Grand Canyon, the diorama and all that.
Yeah. So when you're walking, when you're walking up to Disneyland from Harbor, and you're like where all the buses, there's like a bus pickup zone to your right. Yeah. Yep. There's a tall building. That building. There's a costuming building that's new, and then behind that, the monorail goes right past it when you're
going back into the park. But yeah, that's the old admin building. That's been there probably the 60s or something. Anyway, so we check in there and then we go to our area. We already knew where we were going to work that day most of the time. So you just go to like New Orleans, Fantasyland, wherever you're scheduled to work, and you check in at that area. And then you have an assignment. Let's say sweeping the hub.
Sure.
So if you're on Main Street, say the hub. So you just go in a circle and clean that area for, your whole shift.
I'm sure that sounds ridiculous, but you got to think of the volume of people going through these little areas and how many little pieces of who knows what could fall on the ground. Or popcorn spills, or you name it.
Yeah.
So even though it sounds like a small area, and like, well, that seems like it'd take 2 seconds to. No, I'm sure it takes much longer. And then as soon as you're done, it's you got to go do it again, because it's always amazing to me. You don't, and the thing that's kind of sad to me is you don't notice it when you're there. Like there's nothing, there's no trash. The only time I notice it is when I see like an overflowing garbage can. Then I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's wrong. Like, but It's so weird how you don't appreciate and notice it, because it's just what you're used to when you're at a Disney park.
Right, and it happens, overflowing trash can. They're not perfect, but they're taken care of pretty quickly, at least what
I'm
I
thinking
remember.
The only time I really saw that was right after the parks reopened, and there was not as many, they didn't have the same crew and the same seniority, and it was just a period of transition, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, was understandable, but it's just, it throws you off, because you're just like, well, wait a minute, we're at Disney. This is just confusing.
Yeah, it wasn't the most glamorous job, a lot of people think, and I've been asked by guests before, when do you get to be promoted, and work like in a ride or something? And I said, no, it doesn't work like that, because actually we had opportunities to make more money than they do, because we had, like, if you work restrooms, you get 75 cents more an hour, different things like that.
We're talking back in the late 90s, early 2000 people. I'm sure it's more than, I think it's more than 75 cents extra an hour now, if they're still doing that. I don't know. But you got an extra hourly bump. That's cool.
Yeah. And I think the freedom was the number one draw to being in Custodio, because we could be out and about talking together. We could talk to a guest for, as long as we want, pretty much. I mean, we're, within reason, but get to know the guests and, where are you from? And just kind of chat. You can't do that if you're working in Pirates, when you're asking how many people,
I feel like it'd almost be stressful to be an attractions host, and some of them more than others, because everything's time. So if you got to be really careful. Like, I'm thinking things like space. They always seem to be kind of like almost on high alert, because they're trying to make sure that that the cars are going off as in the right sequence or time span, or however you want to say it, because if it gets off, then it messes everything up, and they have to perhaps reset everything. And
it stresses me out just being in there sometimes. I think, is it going to go down? I keep hearing beeps.
Hurry up and get out of the car, people. Go. It's pretty wild. And even we've talked to people that are listeners that were on attractions that you would think would be, that's got to be much more easygoing. Nope, they're all on it some sort of a timing system. So whether it's I don't know, Alice in Wonderland versus the Incredicoaster or whatever, they all have, there's a timing that you got to make sure you adhere to. So that sounds pretty stressful to me.
You don't have to engage in guests with long conversations. You could just be real short, if they ask you a question or directions or something. But I don't know. I always just like to, someday, not every day, I felt like talking to guests for a long period of time. But most of the time I did enjoy it. Yeah. It was neat. Yeah.
So we'll kind of fast forward a little bit. And so the next kind of, we'll call it like point in your Disney career was actually when you were outside of Disney and not working for the company or the parks anymore. And you and Lynn, or you and Ken, decided to start a podcast. So when did the Sweep Spot start, and how did that kind of get its start?
So when I moved to Utah, so I had quit Disneyland, and my wife and I moved to Utah. My son was just born at that time. He's only like a month old. And I was kind of separated from Disney, not really being a part of that. For so long, I was such a part of the magic, you could say, creating that and being there. So I was kind of starting to miss that. And I discovered podcasts. I thought, what is this? They're talking about Disneyland, and I can listen and at my own leisure. And it was Wedway Radio was one of the first ones that I started listening to. And so I kind of started engaging with them, and they asked me to write a blog for their website, because they had like blogs on their website at the time. And this was probably like 2010, 9, 10. And so I started doing that and engaging, like writing in the articles I would write about my time working at Disneyland with a little bit of history, because their podcast was focused on Disney history. So they kind of inspired me to do a podcast. And so Nate, who was there at the time on Wedway, he kind of helped me set up the podcast. And at the time, I had asked Ken to do it because we were friends. Ken and I met at Disneyland, worked together. We were friends. I went to his wedding. Like, we were just good friends. And so I asked him. He couldn't commit to it right away. He said, but I can come on as a guest when you need me. I said, okay. Because I was really looking for someone. I didn't want to do it alone.
Yeah.
So I asked a friend named Laura, who I knew was in the Disney history, and she was in custodial at the same time as I was. And so we did it for 3 years, I think.
Wow, yeah.
And in the first few years, we were doing it every week. Like, it was just, and it was history, because we didn't have as many contacts for guests. Mm-hmm. So we'd have
and even news sources now. Like,
right.
You didn't have a wealth of knowledge of all the happenings going on to the park, because it was not as easy to share that information if you weren't physically there yourself.
Exactly. So Laura and I did it, and my goal at that time was to do history on every attraction that was ever at Disneyland. And I think we're almost to that goal 12 years later. But
there's a lot of different attractions that have come and gone, though.
So she couldn't do the podcast as much anymore. And so that's when I asked Ken, how about now? Can you do it now? And he said, yeah, now's a good time. So he joined me, and she stepped down, and we've been doing it since then, both of us. And that kind of gave us time to talk about possibly doing a book. Mm-hmm. And that was something that Ken, you can ask him later, but it was something that he had always wanted to do, was write a book. So he kind of pulled me into it, and I thought, yeah, that sounds fun. So we wrote the first book, and it came out in 2015, Queening the Kingdom. Mm-hmm. But so, the podcast kind of went into this book, and we go more into detail about our time working at Disneyland through the book. But so the podcast, we're at, we were doing it every week for a while, but now we do it. Well, we release an episode every week, but the numbered episodes, like the main topic, is every other week. And then the off weeks are current events. We call it. It's our news. So we're at 361 this week. So
wow, that's impressive. And when did the sweep spot start? So you said
2011.
2011.
Yeah.
That's wild. And then Ken joined 2014 then?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
The book was 15. Whew, you guys he hit the ground running when he came in, huh?
I think it took us a year to get the first book out. It was pretty quick. And then the second book came out in 2019. And that was when we met you, I think, was at So that even progressed even further for you. So apparently writing about Disneyland, talking about Disneyland, that didn't quite fulfill that Mickey-shaped hole in your heart. So what are some other fun things that you're doing to to live out your passion? I'm also a travel planner for ConicEARS, and ConicEARS was, I think our podcast was the first one, right?
Yeah.
Before you guys, as far as the sponsorship with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the early days, he had kind of reached out to us. And then, so that's how I knew about ConicEARS. And the more I talked to Mike and everything, I just thought, that sounds fun,
Yeah.
And I started doing that. It's been a little over a year now. I started booking Disney vacations.
So how does it differ from being you've kind of done it all now? You've been a guest, you've been a cast member, and now you're a travel planner. So kind of how does travel planning, I don't want to say rate, but like how is that different, like fun or not fun, or I just think that's really cool. I just realized that you've seen it from like all three possible angles that you could see it.
I didn't even realize that until you brought it up.
You worked there, you're a fan and a guest, and now you're planning for other people. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I think that it gives me an opportunity to I almost feel like a cast member at times, the way that that we're supposed to like talk to, because Disney, has us go through some training and how we're supposed to react, say things or respond. So I don't know. I enjoy it because you're setting up someone for a vacation. And then, I've been there when they're on their vacation, when I was there as a cast member, seeing guests on their vacation. So now I get to be on the other side of it, like you were saying, creating that vacation.
That's going to be super exciting. If you had to guess, or maybe you've kept count, how many families have you planned vacations for, or how many vacations have you planned?
Probably about 25 right now. I'm still in the early stages of it.
Because you're not doing this full time. This is just in all of your spare time when you're not writing books or recording podcasts or being guest host on other people's podcasts.
Yeah. So I've booked a Disney cruise, a lot of Disneyland trips, Disney World, Alani. I've booked that. Fun. Well, I almost had Adventures by Disney, but that didn't work out. And then
what? Paris is the other one.
Paris is one that we can book, but I haven't booked that. I did get someone tickets for that, but it wasn't like a package, so we can, And then Universal, and it's a Disney podcast, but we booked Universal Studios. Yeah,
very cool. So, as a travel planner or vacation planner or concierge, what are some of the things that you most enjoy? Of course, helping the family create these special memories and help plan all that. But what are kind of the things that you get most excited about?
Oh, just sharing some of my insight, because like you visit Disneyland enough to probably even give some tips and things. And I like to give, so like you do that probably to some of your friends or family that are going to go to Disney. Well, I get to do that for the people I plan trips for too.
Well, and these are probably people that maybe it's their first ever trip. So it's very valuable information, because I always have to remind myself that, we kind of absorb and live in way more Disney specific news than the vast majority of people do. Your average guest does not absorb and know as much as we go through every week, just because we enjoy it, and that's just our thing.
Yeah.
So even things like mobile ordering, they may, like, somebody that's never been to the parks probably has no idea what that, like, you say that and they're like, what am I ordering?
I know.
It's that kind of stuff. So even just helping them learn the lingo is huge.
Yeah, and I realized that at first, because I kind of figured that a lot of people didn't know a lot of this, but until you start talking to people, and you say, well, would you want Genie Plus added to that? Because they're like, wait, what's Genie Plus? I'm like, oh no. Yep. So
you're like, okay, we'll take a couple steps back. This is Genie Plus.
So, and it's not easy. I mean, it used to be easier.
Yeah.
Going to Disneyland, when I was in high school, friends would just say, hey, want to go to Disneyland this Saturday? Yeah, sure. We just walk up to the gate. You'd buy a ticket. You'd go in. You didn't have, Fast Pass, Genie Plus. You didn't have to make reservations. It was a lot cheaper.
It was a lot cheaper, yeah.
$35 then. So, yeah, it's just a lot easier. So now it's almost like you need someone like concierge to help plan your trip, because there's so many dining reservations. Yep. I mean, they didn't have that, wasn't a bit as big of a need as it is now. There's just so much to it now.
So it makes, like you said, makes planning that much more challenging. But that's awesome. So talk about past, present. What are your future plans? Because I feel like sky's the limit for you. You've got.
Oh, I don't know.
You've done so many different Disney things. So what are some things that are on your Disney bucket list. And it can be anything. It can be just, I really want to, I don't know, ride Big Thunder Mountain with Tony Baxter or something like that. I don't know. Sky's the limit. You can choose whatever you want to choose.
Who wouldn't want that? Yeah.
Or Indiana Jones. That'd be another good one.
I'd like to go back to Disney World. I need to do that. The last time I was there was 1999.
Oh, wow.
And I know,
things have changed.
I know a lot about the parks, of doing research and having to book trips for people. So I feel like I know a ton more than I knew in 99 because we didn't have the internet to where we can just look up things and
YouTube.
I literally, just all these things. And I literally had one of those unofficial guidebooks and I was looking at that on the plane ride and that was all I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even the fact of like having the app and having like an interactive map in the palm of your hand is huge. Because I don't know how many times, even to this day, there's something, I love them, so I don't want them to ever go away. But the current like park guide maps, you still see people sitting there, with their paper copy out and sitting there like, you can just over here. Are we here? I think we're right here, trying to figure out where in the maze
Turning the map
where in the maze of Disneyland they are. I felt so bad. There was one time we were there, and it was actually over by the stagecoach, the Frontierland stagecoach, that these people were standing there, in a circle with their map out discussing things, and we happened to be walking past. She's like, "Excuse me, we're trying to get to Galaxy's Edge. Can you please point us in the right direction?" I was like, "Oh, you're actually..." You're basically there. Like, you're in the right spot, so go on down. They were just so appreciative because, if you don't, especially with Galaxy's Edge, if you don't know, it's not obvious. You don't necessarily accidentally end up back there. Like, you can kind of accidentally walk into Toontown from Fantasyland or Tomorrowland to Fantasyland, that it's New Orleans Square to Frontierland. You kind of just happen to go through these other lands versus Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. You kind of need to know where you're going.
You almost wouldn't even know it's there. I mean, if you didn't have a map or it was there.
It's true. It's very true. So get back to Disney World. That's at the top of the...
Yeah, I would like that. Plans. Yeah. I mean, I would, of course, love to go to a foreign park or whatever you want to call it. Maybe Tokyo. That would be my number one.
Tokyo looks... Yeah. I have a newfound obsession with Tokyo.
Yeah.
Thank you, YouTube, for that. But there's also been a couple of weekly tiers that have gone recently too, and it just looks so familiar but so different. So I think that's why it's so enticing for me to go. One of these days it'll happen, but it just looks cool.
Yeah, Disney cruise. I'd like to do that. I've been on one cruise, but it wasn't Disney, so I'd like to do that. Yeah.
I can recommend that. I can definitely recommend that. Yeah. And the nice thing too is with your spot now as a concierge, you can you have more of an idea, because like when I booked it, I'm like, I have never had been on a cruise before, so I genuinely had no idea what is it like. Is this a good price for a cruise? I don't know. Like I think this sounds fair. So I called my parents, who are frequent cruisers. They don't do Disney, they do other cruise lines, and asked for their input, and that's how I decided. But now that you're booking those things for others, you kind of have more of an idea.
I do, yeah. Yeah, it's good. I enjoy it. So if you want to book with me, you can.
So if weekly tiers would like to book through you, they just call up and say, "Hey, I really like that Lynn guy."
You could do that.
Do they request, or how does that work? Or just reach out to you directly? Yeah.
There's a form on the website you can click on, and at the end it'll say, how, is there someone you'd like to work with? You can put Lynn on there.
Perfect. Or
like L Barron at concierge.com or thesweetspot.com. There's different ways.
Or Instagram or any of the other social media platforms where the Sweet Spot will get you connected with Lynn.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to go over before we wrap it up?
No,
I'm sure
I feel like
nuggets will come out while we're recording the episodes.
That's true. Yeah, because I feel like when I was on another time, I kind of told individual stories of when things that happened to me, and you can read those in the book too. But yeah,
Well,
go back and listen to episode 50.
There you go. Yeah. Well, to wrap things up, if you don't want to go all the way back, we highly suggest you go all the way back to episode 50 to hear the full original interview with Lynn. But to give him a little teaser, what is one of your favorite stories or memories from your time working at the Disneyland park? And that'll be how we wrap it. So usually we do if you could go back and work at Disneyland, what would you love to do? But we're gonna switch it up for you, and just what was one of your favorite stories of when you worked there?
Well, just the memory that I have, one of the craziest times was New Year's Eve 1999, so going into 2000. Remember the Y2K thing?
Mm-hmm. And everybody thought the world was going to shut down? Yes.
Yeah. They equipped us with flashlights, and the guests were given these glow sticks, the ones you crack. They were about that big. They're about, I don't know, about that big. You can't see on the podcast. But yeah, maybe like 8 inches long. And it said, Happy New Year's 2000 Disneyland. And I think their idea was that if the power did go out, you'd have 80,000 people
just in case,
glow sticks.
That was a really subtle preparedness plan for them. We don't want to make anybody panic, but we're going to give you something that could be fun, but also useful if needed.
Yeah, it was really wild. And I was on working restrooms that evening, and one of my restrooms was Adventureland, and then I had Tiki Room. So we just go back and forth to those two. But I remember trying to make my way and it's not that far, as you know, Adventureland to Tiki Room. It took me like 20 minutes to get there because it was so crowded. I was so crammed and it was just crazy. And they had us shut off the restrooms like 15 minutes before midnight because if the electricity had gone out, they just didn't want people in the restrooms in the dark. And so we had to close them down and stood outside, and
that's wild.
And nothing happened.
Yeah. That's wild. It's really interesting. That's not something I would have thought of, was all of the prep that a place like Disneyland would have to do when the whole world fully believed that computers were going to have an issue from going from 1999 flipping over to 2000. So,
well, if you think about what that did was they closed all the attractions down before midnight too, and so
you just had everybody's in the walkways. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's wow. That's crazy.
This was before Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Before California Adventure. So everyone was in Disneyland. I'm guessing there was probably like close to 90,000 people there. So it was crazy.
That would be a little packed, a little tight. We talk about it being crowded now, and that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what that must have felt like.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for giving us a brief little introduction and a little history about who you are and kind of where you come from. We look forward to doing this a few more times with you while Tage's out on his... I keep calling it their adventure because I feel like that's what it is. They're going and visiting and doing all sorts of kind of mini vacations in this one big main vacation. So that's what it is. It's just an adventure because it's just so cool, so much fun packed into 7 weeks, and they're going to have tons of stories to share, I'm sure.
Yeah, I might enjoy this so much. I'll say, Tage, you don't need to come back. No, just kidding.
Looks like we're coming in for a landing, gang. But please stay listening until trivia comes to a stop. And then you can walk to the nearest exit. Thanks for listening to the 8th wonder of the world, DLWeekly.
Welcome back to Trivia Land. How are we feeling about tonight's questions?
Oh,
No.
I'm cheering for the bonus question.
Okay, so you do have a bit of a smile on your face. I'll take that then. All right, well, I do want to throw out one little disclaimer. Hard questions for me to actually do the research on. And listeners, if any of you have proof that I am wrong on something, please feel free to send that in at trivia@dlweekly.net. I am not above being told that I screwed up, and I will happily take the mea culpa on that if anybody can point out, oops, you missed something, here's where it is, or whatever. So, from the information that I have been able to find, let's go to the answers. Your first question. In the queue for Soarin', guests pass through the Wings of Fame, featuring an homage to the California aviation industry, including profiles of what 3 iconic aircraft? You guessed the Spruce Goose, and I don't know. The answers that I was looking for were the P-51 Mustang, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the Bell X-1.
I can confidently say I've never paid attention to that part of the queue, apparently, because none of those even sounded vaguely familiar.
Yeah, the Mustang does, but yeah. Okay.
All right. Your second question. Also in the Wings of Fame, there is a section dedicated to notable aviators. How many can you name? You said Charles Yeager, Howard Hughes, Amelia Earhart, and Wright brothers, Orville, ? The correct answers that I was looking for was John J. Montgomery, Amelia Earhart, Jimmy Doolittle, Charles Lindbergh, Jack Northrop, the Wright brothers, Orville and Wilbur, no question marks, Howard Hughes, Jacqueline Cochran, Kelly Johnson, Paul McCready, and Chuck Yeager.
Hey.
So I awarded you half a point on this one.
I'm actually pretty impressed with us on that.
Yeah, that was not too bad.
How we didn't think about Lindbergh, I don't know, but other than that.
It's hard with the pressure and having to come up with it really fast. It's difficult. It was hard for me to find all this. So, after the Wings of Fame, guests are separated into 3 pre-show areas where they meet Chief Flight Attendant Patrick. What are the names of these areas? You said pre-flight check. I was trying to hint you that it might be kind of a door with the Phoenician system, like a Phoenician alphabet. So like the Alpha Gate, a gate is a door, and Bravo Gate and Charlie Gate. Oh. And they're actually named after the NATO phonetic alphabet. So each of the 3 doors that you could be queued up in are Alpha Gate, Bravo Gate, or Charlie Gate.
Interesting. I'll have to pay attention next time.
And your fourth and final regular round question. Chief Flight Attendant Patrick is played by whom? You knew that it was Patrick who voiced Kronk.
I think that's pretty good. Thank you.
I awarded you half a point. The correct answer that I was looking for was Patrick Warburton, known for his roles as The Tick, Lemony Snicket, Bud Putty on Seinfeld, Joe Swanson in The Family Guy, and, of course, Kronk.
Woohoo!
And your bonus question. In what year did the original Soarin' Over California debut at DCA? Both of you knowing the correct answer, Lynn taking it all the way to the exact day of February 8th, 2001.
Nice job, Lynn.
Well done on that.
Thank you.
So, listeners, how do you think they did? How did you do listening at home? Do you have some great questions, maybe a deep dive of your own that you'd really like to hear on the air? Feel free to send that in to us at trivia@dlweekly.net.
We will be back next week with more Disneyland news and information.
Until then, go out and enjoy the parks.
Please remain seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop and the doors have opened. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the episode. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us. And we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at DL Weekly.